friends, what's going on? So a quick technique video, right? I want to show you just a few minute tip here, and this is going to have to do with playing something, right? A chord, anything, and then muting it with your left hand, with your fretting hand. And when I say muting, what I'm really talking about is sort of killing the strings, is going from the sound of what you played to silence, and having that be a clean silence, okay? And an example of a dirty or a not clean silence might be if I play an E major chord and just take my fingers off, you kind of get that like ringing that happens, number one, of the open strings. You know, those thin strings that I didn't push down, they're gonna keep ringing. But also, if you take your fingers off, it can kind of make a new sound on the notes you just played. And we don't want that. We want it to be a clean, you know, a transition from a chord to nothing and have it be clean and total. And this is really important with music. It's a great way to sort of add dynamics and a percussive element to what you're playing, right? Because it's all about sound. And if we can go from a clean chord to silence, it just adds contrast, and contrast is good. It calls attention to things, right? It's all about difference. You have a nice sound and it goes to silence, and then that readies the ear for what's next. What's it going to be? Maybe it's lyrics, or maybe it's something else that you're going to play, but in either case, it's a valuable thing. So let's show some examples here, right? The simplest one I would say is if you start with an E major chord, right? So all 6 strings, open, second, second, first, open, open. A nice thing you can do here is basically play just the 5th, 4th, and 3rd string, okay? Just the notes that you're pushing down with your fingers, right? And then what I want you to do is to lift the fingers that are pushing down off of the fretboard, but keep them on the strings. And this is what it should sound like if you do it right. Right? So I'm lifting the fingers off of the wood, but they're still touching the metal strings. And what that does is it stops the ringing sound from happening, but because our fingers are still on the strings, it doesn't allow those strings to make some new noise. Okay, that would be bad. This is good. Okay, that's the first little technique to get used to there. The second way you can do this, and with the E major chord, is if we play all the strings, we can do what I just showed you, but it's not going to kill the strings that are the open strings, the strings you're not pressing down, right? But what we can do with those is we can sort of rotate our hand, sort of flatten it like that, put our sort of the bottom of our thumb toward the camera, right? Face forward. And what that's going to do is it's going to, number one, cause these fingers to touch these strings, which kills the sound, right? And it's also going to cause this thumb to come over the top and kill the low E string. So watch, you play all 6 strings, and you do that, and it's going to basically kill the sound, right? So that's the goal, that's what we want. And with the E major chord, it's a nice one to practice with because it's relatively easy to move your hand like that, and there's nothing too crazy going on. Now, there's a few circumstances where things get trickier, right? Say we take an A minor chord, right? Here, we can kind of do the same technique, but that low A string is still gonna ring, right? Or what if we did a D chord? If we flatten our hand, it doesn't really get these middle strings. So those middle strings are still gonna ring. That's not good. How do we stop them? One way to do that is to use your pinky. So if we play the A minor or the D, in both cases, our pinky is gonna be free. So what it can do is, in addition to these pushing down fingers coming off of the wood, right? And sort of stopping those thinnest 3 strings, we can bring the pinky in and just rest it over the top of all the strings. So check that out. You play the D, right? And the pinky comes down. Okay, and that's in addition to these fingers, again, coming off the wood but staying on the string. So what that does right there is give you a few different ways, no matter what kind of chord you're playing, whether it's, you know, a G is a nice one because you can just flatten your hand like that, and it makes a nice sound, right? For the C, same deal. Because your ring finger is already on the 5th string, you just sort of flatten it, and it's gonna sort of kill the thinnest 5 strings, and then your thumb can get the 6th string. The D is one of the trickier ones, like I showed you. You kind of have to use your pinky if you want to do it, unless you can really sort of bring your thumb all the way around, right? So that's sort of the general technique. Now let me show you an exercise that's going to use this technique, and it'll sort of allow you to have some fun with it, right? So with this technique, I'm going to show you 3 chords here, right? And this is part of the song Summertime, the George Gershwin classic, right? The first 3 chords. fingers, I'm playing an E minor chord, okay, with my middle and ring fingers. Now this next chord, it's like a D over F sharp, but we're not gonna play the second string. We're not gonna push down the second string. So what you get here is the second fret on the bass note, and then on the thinnest 3 strings, we're gonna do second, open, second. Okay, and then you're gonna go to a G, and to do the G, you wanna slide your middle finger to the 3rd fret on the 6th string, and use our ring and pinky on the 1st and 2nd string. And then you pluck, bass note, and the thinnest 3 strings. So the first part of this exercise might require a bit of practice, and I mean a couple, a day or two, come back to it. This took me a while to get comfortable with, but these 3 chords, you want to be able to go between them smoothly, right? But I'm already doing it, and what I'm doing is silencing the strings after I pluck the thinnest 3. So you do bass note, pluck, silence. Bass note, pluck, silence. Bass note, pluck, silence. And then when we go back to the D over F sharp, we're going to do this sort of and not silence. And this is an example of what I'm talking about where there's contrast. Those first 3 are, it almost sounds like someone sneaking around, right? But on that 4th time, that 4th chord, when we return to the D over F sharp, because I'm not silencing, the way the chord rings out, it adds a bit of like allure and intrigue. It's like, ooh, that's different. The ear pays attention to it, right? Because it breaks the pattern. And that's an example of a good type of contrast. So let me play through it a few times. I'm going to take it slow. And again, this is a tricky chord sequence to get a handle on it first. But this is a great one to practice with this technique. So check this out. So you can get a chord sheet at my website, playsongnotes.com, that gives you some pictures of how to do this technique in general, and it shows you that exercise I just gave you. It's a great little one. You spend some time with those chords. It might take you a while, but it's a great one. I've had so much fun just practicing this, and you can kind of get all kinds of into it as far as how you strum. You could use a pick if you want to, right? If you want to learn the song Summertime, check out my website. I have a lesson on it as well. So hey, that's going to be this little exercise for you. Keep this technique in mind. Find ways when you're playing that you can sort of play a chord and then silence it. You can use your picking hand to silence, and there's total other techniques that do that. The simplest way is you simply bring it into the strings. That's a handy thing to do as well. But sometimes you need to use your left hand, your fretting hand. And I just wanted to introduce these techniques to you so that you knew they existed. And if it comes up for you to use them in a way that adds something to your music, now you know. So thanks for watching, y'all. Check out my website for more quick tips like this, and I'll see you on the other side. Bye-bye.